Broadcasting from Manhattan Beach and the World Wide Web, you're listening to CHSR, HealthyLife.net.
As a service to our listeners, this program is for general information and entertainment purposes only. CHSR, HealthyLife.net does not recommend, endorse, or object to the views, products, or topics expressed or discussed by show hosts or their guests. We suggest you always consult with your own personal, medical, financial, or legal advisor.
Hey there, and welcome back to the Dr. Teresa Nicasio Show, a place of inspiration, education, and hope for a more compassionate and sustainable world. I offer this show to you freely. However, your support and donations really matter. To make a donation or to learn about advertising or sponsorship opportunities for your business, let me know. You can email me at teresa@teresanicasio.com or visit teresanicasio.com. My name is Teresa with an H, for those of you who don't know yet. Nicasio with an N like Nancy and 2 S's. So it's teresanicasio.com, or email me at teresa@teresanicasio.com. Or you can send me a message through my website. Anyway, we have so much coming up this month, and for those of you who don't know, this is Eating Disorders Awareness Month, and in Canada, it's actually Eating Disorders Awareness Week. So I'm going to be particularly focusing on that theme today, and with our guest today, we're going to be talking about that topic, but it's going to be interwoven through this month of love. But for next week, I want you to be sure to join us for what I'm calling our Valentine's Show, because it's on the eve of Valentine's Day on February 13th, when gourmet plant food innovator and chef James Sant from Living Light Culinary Institute is going to be joining us to entice us with slow food and teach us the art of finding love in the kitchen. So anyway, I think you're going to enjoy that show. It'll be a lot of fun. Then on the 20th, we have urban garden revolutionary Jane Gruber. She's going to be coming back to the show, and she's going to be talking about food safety and food security. She's got a crazy story. Oh, not crazy. It's very moving in that she lived through Chernobyl, the Chernobyl disaster, and as a child, and lived and witnessed what it was like to have all your food poisoned. So she's very passionate about food safety and food security. And finishing off this month, we are going to finish it off with a bang with world-renowned pediatric gastroenterologist, Dr. Alessio Fasano, is going to be on the show. And so many of you already know Dr. Fasano. He's probably the leading expert on celiac disease and non-celiac gluten sensitivity in the world. And he's also done a lot of work around in other areas, like around research around type 1 diabetes. Excuse me. But our special focus for today, as I mentioned, is on Eating Disorders Awareness Week. And I realize that Eating Disorders Awareness Week will be later in the month in the U.S., but in Canada, it's just here now, so there we are. And for those of you who are listening to the show live, this show is live, so that you can feel free to phone in during the program if you would like to ask questions of us. And if you do call in, you're going to speak with Jay, the producer. He's wonderful, and you can let him know what your question is. And then during the break time, he can let myself and our guests know what the question is, and we can try to address it during the next segment. So if you are in the U.S., you can call toll-free at 1-800-555-5453. If you're outside the U.S., the number is 5444. So it's 5 and then 3 4s in a row. And those numbers are also on my website, teresanicasio.com, on the radio show page. So if you need to reference it, you can do that again. So I can't begin to tell you how thrilled I am to introduce to you our guest for today. I'm going to share with you a little bit about Christine Blanchette. Christine is a celebrity athlete and is the host of BC's only running, fitness, and health show. It's called Run With It, and it's on Shaw TV. Christine has an amazing story that she's going to be sharing with us today. But she started running in 1999, and if you can believe it, just 5 months after she started running, she finished the Vancouver Marathon in a qualifying time for the Boston Marathon. So you runners out there who are listening, you know what a big deal this is. And a year later, get this, a year later, Christine finished a 50-kilometer ultramarathon in Victoria, BC, where she not only did that, but she then was ranked. She came in second and was ranked as the second fastest woman in all of Canada in the 50K. So again, any of you runners, any of us non-runners, I'm not a runner, my husband's a runner, I know what a big deal this is. And I apologize, I have a little frog here. So I'm going to share with you a little bit more about Christine. She's also a nationally published health and fitness writer. She writes weekly columns for both the Richmond Review and the Sherbrooke Record, and does radio commentaries on running tips with CJMQ 88.9 FM in Quebec. For obvious reasons, Christine has been interviewed extensively by mainstream media and has herself written stories for the Seattle Times, the Vancouver Sun, Canadian Running Magazine, Huffington Post, Women's National Post, Optimize Magazine, iRun Magazine, and Get Out There Magazine. Today, Christine is going to be opening her heart with us and sharing from a very personal place a part of her life that most people don't know about. Christine's going to be talking with us about the darkest time of her life when she suffered terribly with an eating disorder. She's going to then talk about how running, of all things, helped to heal and transform her emotionally in ways that she never would have imagined. Christine, welcome to the show. I'm just thrilled that you are joining us, and thank you for being here.
Well, thank you very much for the wonderful introduction, and I am very pleased to be on your show, Teresa, and I'm just happy to share my story today.
Would you be willing to go back in time a little bit, because it sounds like, I'm not sure whether running and the eating disorder, how that all came about, and so which came first? You know, the chicken and egg question here.
Yeah. Well, I started running officially in 1999, but I ran a bit of track, and my brother was always the runner in the family, if you will, and I ran for points. So, I wasn't really into athletics or running for that matter. So I would say running came first before my eating disorder. But the passion of running came, after I had, my eating disorder, and I didn't know how it all happened, but it just came when I moved away to go to school to study. I felt an enormous amount of stress, and not knowing who I am, and not knowing, just coming from a rural part in Quebec, and not having the confidence, I guess, to be strong enough and confident enough to feel I can do this, and I wanted to go to school. I didn't want to, for me to stay in Richmond, Quebec, which was the Eastern Townships, so it's a small town, and I decided to go to school, but it was, as I said, it was an enormous amount of stress, and then I worked, and I felt like I wasn't in control. I didn't know. I just felt like this little girl on an island, like all by myself, and it was a big city, which was, not far from Richmond, like 30 miles. It's like Lennoxville, Quebec. But I felt that I needed some control. And I felt that maybe changing my eating habits, and I felt food was the thing I could control. And but also too, there's more ways of thinking how it started. I've had some people say I had I was kind of overweight, but I wasn't really overweight. But I guess maybe I didn't look thin and a thin man or whatever, but I just, that kind of stayed with me too, and I just wanted overall more control of my life. And I felt, as I said, eating was something I can control, and no one could take that away from me because I would put whatever in my mouth.
Exactly. Well, and what a lot of people don't realize is that the eating disorders, disordered eating, whatever you want to call it, is really not about food. And it can be triggered there can be elements triggered by food and by our bodies. But what you're talking about, that feeling out of control, and you talked about feeling all alone, all by yourself, and overwhelmed and stressed. There's these other emotions that are there, and so when I have people who come to me, they talk about them, they talk about eating disorder. They're really surprised to hear that I think about eating disorder as a symptom and not actually the problem. It becomes a problem, as I'm sure we'll talk more about that. But where it starts from, like you're talking about, the seed of where it began, really wasn't really about food.
Well, it was, I had anorexia nervosa, and I was depressed. I felt like, my family said, you want to go to school? And I said, yes, but I'm a pleaser. I wanted to please everybody, except even though I did what I wanted to do, I felt like bad about myself. Like, I felt like, oh, my goodness, I was feeling like just, puberty, you're growing up, you're trying to find your way in the world, and just dealing with that emotion and taking control, trying to please everybody in the family, because there were problems in the family, and trying to be the leader of the center of the nucleus, if you will, and it was difficult.
So when you said that you were diagnosed with anorexia nervosa, when did that start?
It started when I was going to university, and college and university. It started at that time, and I didn't even know what I had. Mm-hmm. I just felt, I was losing weight profusely. And I thought, I'm not fat. I'm not skinny. In other words, I'm not skinny. And people say, oh my gosh, you're losing a lot of weight. No, I'm not skinny. I'm healthy. It's just something I didn't understand. And then one day, to share with you, my mom saw me with, she could see my bones, the back of, I had no fat, absolutely skeleton, really thin. And so I had to go to the doctor, and then I went to see a psychiatrist at the hospital. And it was hard for me to do because I didn't want to go because I didn't have a problem. I didn't want to admit I had a problem because it was like giving in, to
loss of control again. And then going to a hospital of all places, right? I mean, that's not the place where you feel the most in control when we're in the hospital.
And so I was admitted into the hospital, and
I'm going to have you raise your voice just a little bit, too.
Oh, yes, sorry. And I was admitted into the hospital, and I was down to 84 pounds.
Holy moly.
I'm a little over 5'4".
Wow.
And I don't want people to feel sorry for me. It's not about, it's just something, this is my first story I'm sharing with you, and it's something that, if anyone's listening to this, it took a lot of, strength and to recover, but I remember the point, and before you ask me, when did I help myself? When did I recognize I had this problem? Mm-hmm. It was when I was in the hospital bed, and I was feeling like something's wrong. I need to help myself, but I do not know how. And even though doctors and my family said, you can help yourself, you can do this. Just eat. Well, yes,
just eat.
I can eat. but this is ridiculous. I know that, but why can't I eat? And I was saying, talking, and then I thought I'm going to write a letter, and I started writing a letter about my feelings, and this light shone in the hospital window, and it just, I don't know what it was, but it was a sign, like, I can do this. I can. It was just picking up that piece of paper and pen and started writing and having that sun, and it was like God, I felt, and telling me that I can do this. I can I can help myself. And it just, from that point, I mean, of course I didn't snap out of it, but it slowly began a process for me and how I could deal with this problem that I had, which I didn't want to admit for the longest time. But that's when my healing started to happen, and it was a slow process.
It is. I've got goosebumps as you're talking about the story, and literally it was like rays of hope shone through the window, right? It's you know, poetic, it's beautiful, and it's almost like there was a part of you that realized that you were worthy. And when we eat,
yes.
You know, when we eat, it's to nourish ourselves. It gives us what we need. But if you were feeling like you had to give to everyone else and, you know, please everyone, it's, you know, there may have been a part of you that didn't really feel worthy of receiving that which you needed.
Yes, and I felt what trading in an unhealthy habit for a healthier habit, which is running, it helped. And now you're thinking, like, you know, doctors say you're not supposed to exercise when you're going through this period. But I felt that this was a way for me to cope and feeling this confidence, because running gives me confidence, and it still does today. It is something I owe running, the sport, so much, because it saved me. I just started, you know, taking that unhealthy habit, you know, of trying to eat properly and eating nutritiously, and then turning it around and exercising and slowly getting into running. And, you know, as I said earlier, I ran for points. But this time I was going to run for me and run the best I could. And I just turned it all around and turned my life. I transformed into this healthy, confident person I believe I am today. And, yeah.
That's huge. So did you start running while you were in the hospital still?
No, I wasn't allowed. I could dream about running.
Because that can be perceived as part of the purging. As you know, some of you are not familiar that sometimes running can be part of, you know, kind of a weight management strategy, and can sometimes be associated with disordered eating. But in your case, it was totally different. And I mean, this is really, really interesting, isn't it?
It is, because it was the carrot. If you will. It was the carrot that was there, and I thought, okay, because I had, you know, a friend said, you know what, you should run, you know, I think you'd be good in running, just try to run. I thought, running, well, maybe it's a passion, you know. I thought I never really was good at anything in team sports, but I thought, okay, I can't run, but if I want to be a runner, if I want to run again, you know, start it up, I need to eat. And I'm going to do that.
It was the idea of running, that you wanted to run again, that was part of what inspired you to start to nurture yourself and nourish yourself.
Yes.
Oh, my gosh, that is so interesting.
And I felt, you know what, because even though I ran for points in Quebec, and my brother was the better runner, he was so good, and I thought, you know, I can do this, is something that I was not too bad at, and I thought, you know, as I said, my friend said, why don't you run? You know, running is really good for your mind, and I thought, really? Okay, well, maybe but you know, it was just something I wanted to try, and I never looked back. I just like Forrest, run Forrest. You know, yeah. So that's how it all came, and in order for me to reach this, I had to, you know, improve in my healthy eating habits. Now, it wasn't easy, but I started slowly, like you would do when you're training for a marathon. You have to train properly, and you have to have a foundation, and you reach it. And I didn't want to be pushed when I was eating. I wanted to eat what I could, and also I went for, you know, counseling, of course, and it helped. So it was a journey, and I look back on it, and it's made me for who I am today.
Wow, that is so great. So you took visioning, really, I think kind of an unorthodox visioning around your journey. It was, the vision to run. And actually, when we vision, in the moment we're visioning, I always like to tell people, when you see yourself doing something, even before you've done it, you're already there. And you make certain changes neurologically in the connections that make it so that you're more able to manifest that, to actually make that come to be. How long was it months or years before you were able to start running? Because if you were 84 pounds, and it's important. And again, as Christine was mentioning, not to feel sorry for. It's just to really realize that this was serious. This was not. Christine, you hadn't just lost a few pounds here or there. This was significant. This was a full-on alteration of body image and perceptions that led you to get to that 84 pounds. And so I'm thinking that maybe after the break we can talk a little bit more with you, Christine. We're going to have to go for a break in a moment. But if you can talk a little bit more about that journey back to health, because as you're saying, it wasn't easy, but it was, it was certainly worth it, and you had clarity about where you wanted to go. So would that sound like a good plan for when we come back?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, wonderful.
Thank you.
So, folks, we'll be right back with Christine Blanchette after the break.
Being inspired by a speaker while learning everyday positive information that you can use to help your life is exactly what Dr. Teresa Nicasio does when she speaks in front of your group. From healthcare professionals to special needs parenting and everything in between, Dr. Teresa Nicasio can customize topics for your group on everything from health to psychology. To book Dr. Teresa Nicasio as a speaker for your group, visit yumfoodforliving.com or call 604-445-6463. That's 604-445-6463.
For all your live or pre-recorded webcasting needs, come to earthchannel.com. Get your web-based message out to a select group or the whole world. It's easy. A pioneer in webcasting, earthchannel.com provides the best products and services to big corporations and government users. And now this same technology is available to you. They have the best Earthcast encoders, servers, and products to meet your technical needs. But wait, don't want to mess with technical stress? No problem. They'll do it for you. EarthChannel.com is your answer. You can use webcasting for lots of things like advertising, marketing, customer support, training, and don't forget web radio and TV. In fact, you're listening to a live Earthcast right now. So come to EarthChannel.com. Actualize your audio or video webcasting needs today. You can't beat the friendly service or the price. Call earthchannel.com at 1-800-849-8978. That's 1-800-849-8978.
Yumfoodforliving.com is the place to get easy allergy-free recipes, all free of sugar, gluten, and dairy. But that's not all you'll get when you visit yumfoodforliving.com. You'll get resources for all kinds of things like wellness articles, videos, podcasts, a blog, all to help you create easy, healthy living. There's even a 50-page downloadable book introducing you to the philosophy of yum. Don't wait. Visit yumfoodforliving.com. Yumfoodforliving.com. That's yumfoodforliving.com.
If you like to spend your television viewing time learning about some of the things that you may have missed in history class, or if history was your favorite subject, then you should check out the link to the History Channel on the HealthyLife.net advertiser page. Order DVD sets by series or by subject matter right from our homepage while you still enjoy your favorite HealthyLife.net show.
You're listening to HealthyLife.net, the radio network that brings positive talk with positive change to make your world a little better.
Welcome back to the Dr. Teresa Nicasio Show. For those of you who are just joining us, we have been talking with Christine Blanchette. She's the host of her own show called Run With It on Shaw TV, and she's an amazing person here in BC and in Canada in terms of her leadership around running and the running community. But she's with us today, and she's talking about the darkest time of her life. and how running was a source of healing for her, and it came about quite surprisingly, but it actually became part of her motivation to get well, was so that she could could actually run. It was just very clear. So we're going to carry from there, because the idea of before break, Christine, welcome back.
Thank you.
Before break, you were mentioning about how it took a while, and even though you knew you wanted to run and you could see that, that you couldn't do that for some time, but you realized you had to get strong. And I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about the actual journey back to health, because it's not something, like you were saying, some people would say, or you would think, well, the solution is you just eat. Well, it's actually not. Is it really that simple? No. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Why it's not that simple?
It was, I understand where why the comment was made that way, but it was not an easy thing to do, to eat when you didn't feel like eating, or you felt, hey, I don't need to eat because I'm not hungry, or whatever. You're not at that point, and I wasn't at that point in my journey. But I was, before I wanted to talk a little bit about my journey, is that when I didn't realize I had an eating disorder, anorexia nervosa, I had to go to see a counselor with my mom, and I would talk to the doctor, and he said, you have a problem, and I didn't know. I'm okay. I'm fine. But these weekly sessions really didn't help that much. And the doctor said, if you lose any more weight, then we have to admit you. And I'm thinking, no way. Like, this is crazy. I don't have a problem. I don't see myself as thin, as I said earlier. But anyway, I lost the weight that they didn't want to see me at, which was 84, and I was hospitalized or admitted. I was in the hospital for about 5 to 6 weeks, roughly, and I had to stay there, and that was the time that I needed to find a healthy habit, which was running, but in order for me to get to that journey, or that point, I had to eat. And the only way, eat healthy and start eating, in other words. But then, being in the hospital, I did eat. Of course, I was seeing, specialists to help me to do that. So I got to the weight that they wanted, and I thought, okay, but I can't run because I'm still weak, and then I might go back to, being that way. So it took about roughly a year, for me to start wanting to run, or starting to run. But I would dream about running. I would, do some walking. But I thought, okay, my turn will come, but I need to promise myself that I can do this, and I want to be able to start my running journey. And that's how it all began. I felt, like I said earlier, the carrot was in front, but I had to, it's like anything. If you want something, you have to dream it, build it, and it'll come. And that's how I approached it, to get out of this feeling of no control, and then eating, even though it wasn't something I really wanted to do or feel like at the time. I hope I'm making sense, Teresa.
Totally makes sense.
I just went on that path, and then it steered me towards where I wanted to be, with running and being healthy. But it took about a year for me to realize, hey, I almost died,
Yeah. It's life-threatening, and this is a life-threatening disorder.
It is. It is something that you have to reach out for support. You have to reach out for help. It's really important that you have family, friends who see it. And I remember when I was studying jazz, I took a jazz class, and the professor was saying, well, you've lost weight, because I wanted to be thin. Like, I wanted to be, like, I have curves. and I'm thinking, like, all runners come in all shapes and sizes. And so, yeah.
All people come in all shapes and sizes.
Yes, runners.
Yeah. Yeah, when we grow up, when we go through puberty, our body starts to change form, right? When you start to get these visions or images, so you had a certain idea in your mind, of getting rid of the curves. It sounds like that those curves were something that kept you wanting to lose weight.
Yes,
that distortion in what you were seeing.
Exactly, because I felt, you had to be thin to be a great runner. You had to be thin to be anything, and I felt that wasn't the case. I think runners are all good in different shapes and sizes. Like, I'm 5'4", and I run really well. And I have hips.
That's an understatement, but go ahead. You're so funny. I want to take a moment and just speak about something that probably you listeners are wondering. It's, when you see someone who is shrinking, and you start to see their bones, and from the outside in, it couldn't be more clear that they, that their body is, that they need some more weight, that something's not right. But when you live inside that body, and particularly with all of the social messages that we have around size, and you said earlier that you believe that that you maybe were overweight or something when you were younger, or you had these beliefs. These distortions make it so that the way you process, the way your brain processes, it changes. But not only that, but after you've been starving your body, when your body hasn't been getting the right nutrients, and it starts to actually digest itself, right? It starts to digest parts of itself, and you don't start to lose some of what you need. I mean, our brain is mostly fat, so when you start losing a lot of fat, then eventually it actually starts to have an effect on the brain itself. So when Christine, when you're talking about, the doctor's saying we really don't want you losing more weight, and you look at them like, you're just crazy. I mean, was there a part of you that didn't want to go back to that counselor who was threatening you to put you in the hospital?
Yeah, and I laugh at it now, but I mean, I thought everyone's crazy except me.
Yeah. You're like the healthiest one. It's like, look at them. I mean, they just don't get it. They don't see you. Right?
And it's really hard to share this story because, I used to, people think you're crazy. Why are you sharing the story? It is okay. It's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay, because you know what? It's called healing, and I'm okay to share my story now, and it took a while to do that, and it's something that, because it's a bit of shame that comes, I felt ashamed to have this problem, disease, I don't know, it depends on everybody, but it's an individual disorder, it affects people individually, I should say.
Every person's different, totally. Yeah. So we're going to be kind of needing to come to a close on this. We're going to be having Christine come back to talk a little bit more. But I'm wondering if maybe when we come back, if you might be willing to talk a little bit about, when you think about eating disorders, what you know about Karen Carpenter and how she died of an eating disorder, and talk a little bit about that. And I'm not sure about the timing of that, but it may not have been that dissimilar in timing from your own experience. So maybe after the break we can start with that, and then talk a little bit more about what you'd recommend for other people who think that they might have a eating disorder, or know someone or love someone who does. So we'll be back with Christine right after the break. Don't go away.
There's a book that makes it so easy to embrace a healthy, gluten-free lifestyle, even kids will like it. Filled with heartwarming stories, food as medicine health tips, easy allergy-free recipes, and creative culinary inventions, the award-winning book Yum by Dr. Teresa Nicasio is your source for all of this and more. So make gluten-free living easy, tasty, and fun. Get Yum, plant-based recipes for a gluten-free diet at Amazon.com or visit yumfoodforliving.com. That's yumfoodforliving.com.
What does HealthyLife.net and Amazon.com have in common? Well, they're both available on the Internet. They both give great value. But most important, most of our positive program hosts and guests are accomplished authors, and their books are available from, you got it, Amazon.com. Now, it even gets better than that, because when you're listening on air to a HealthyLife.net host or guest, you can go directly to Amazon.com and you can order your book while you're still listening to your favorite HealthyLife.net program. So when you hear an author you like, go to the homepage of HealthyLife.net and click on Amazon.com.
When you have a food allergy or dietary limitation, Dr. Teresa Nicasio knows it's hard to give up the foods you love, so she decided to put on her chef hat and give you affordable, personalized culinary consultations that will light up your taste buds. You'll explore substitute ingredients so you can enjoy your favorite foods again. She'll even help you make food preparation easy and guide you on your path to healthy living. And to get started, all you have to do is call 604-445-6463. That's 604-445-6463.
HealthyLife.net, the positive radio network.
YumFoodForLiving.com is the place to get easy allergy-free recipes, all free of sugar, gluten, and dairy. But that's not all you'll get when you visit YumFoodForLiving.com. You'll get resources for all kinds of things like wellness articles, videos, podcasts, a blog, all to help you create easy, healthy living. There's even a 50-page downloadable book introducing you to the philosophy of Yum. Don't wait. Visit YumFoodForLiving.com. YumFoodForLiving.com. That's YumFoodForLiving.com.
HealthyLife.net, the positive radio network.
Welcome back to the Dr. Teresa Nicasio show, where we celebrate everyday heroes like we have on today, Christine Blanchette, and we work together to help make the world a better place. If you're just joining us, today we're talking with high-performance runner, once named the second fastest woman for the 50K run in all of Canada. She's sharing her story and talking about the darkest time in her life when she suffered tremendously from anorexia nervosa, one form of an eating disorder. And just before the break, Christine, we were talking, you mentioned about feeling shame, and we also were talking about, I'd love to hear your thoughts around the Karen Carpenter and how that, her story touched you. So, starting with the shame, it's a really common feeling. And I guess I'll say, first of all, shame and guilt are very different. People don't realize that guilt and shame are very different feelings. Guilt is more associated to feeling like there's something you've done that's wrong. But shame is often, that's actually more associated with the belief that there's something inherently wrong, or that we are wrong in some way, and it's a very deep feeling. So when you mentioned that before the break, I was wondering if you might be able to talk a little bit more of those feelings of shame that you were alluding to.
Well, it's not something that you really want to tell many people. It is like I didn't even tell my partner for the longest time. And because I felt ashamed, I felt he's going to judge me the wrong way. He's going to think this, he's going to think that, and I don't want people to feel sorry for me. I don't want people to think I'm strong. I don't want, even when I felt stories on eating disorders for both TV and print, I would, interview, people who are suffering, but I would never share my story. I would never ever do that, and I would just be, very quiet with, because I didn't want to bring my past up. Mm-hmm. But the shame, I don't feel like I feel now. I'm okay to share my story. That's why I'm telling it now for the first time, as I keep saying. But it's something that, and I think too, what made me feel to share this with my mom, who passed away recently. I felt I need to heal from the pain, my mom's death, but also just coming to terms with who I am and why do I have to walk around and have this feeling of, hey, I am Christine, but I have something I don't want to share because it's something I feel ashamed of, and but it's just unveiling of who I am. As I said to you earlier, it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to reach out to tell people your story, because if you can help others, then that's the whole point, of sharing your story. And it's just don't be ashamed. It's we are human, and it's all about being the best you can be, and we all come from different walks of life, and mine was, from small town to moving here in Vancouver and enjoying my life. So I hope I answered your question, Teresa.
Oh, yeah, of course. And yes, this is a conversation. There's no right or wrong answer. It's all wonderful. But I love what you're alluding to about how we're all human, because that's what I talk about. I love this term that, I don't know, I was just drawn to call it everyday heroes for the show, because I believe that just to be alive, Christine, and all of you, just to be alive and choose to live each day is a heroic act, because life is hard. You mentioned about how growing up in your family, that, of course, it's like none of us are perfect. So there were issues growing up in the family, and there was challenges, and there's stressors, and we get confused. We just stumble around doing the best that we can, and so on the show, even though we have really some world-renowned leaders and such, there's still just in my heart, we're all just everyday heroes, and some just happen to get a little more notoriety than others. I mean, you just happen to have this radio show, and we're the second fastest woman in Canada. I mean, but you're still just a person like everyone else. And I think that message is something I hope all of you really take with you. And I think that's the other gift, though, of getting older and having losses, like your mom dying, which was huge. It's huge losing someone we love. But one of the things is we start to realize that we're not here forever. And when we get older, what are we protecting when what we have inside can offer hope and healing for others as well? So I'm really just happy that you had the courage and that you trusted me and our listeners to be the first place that you're sharing your story. So absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Karen Carpenter, do you remember? I don't remember what year she died. Do you remember when she died?
I think it was in the 1980s, I believe. But she struck a chord with me because, her voice is beautiful. It's angelic, and I liked the song Monday, Feeling Blue, and it kind of, I reached for her song because she unfortunately passed away. But she is someone that I reached out, not reached out, but, thought of, I should say, and listened to her music, and it's just, I didn't want to, die. I wanted to live, obviously, and I think I was just, having her, listening to her music, it helped. I don't know, it's just, yeah.
Yeah, and again, another high, kind of celebrity status, there's something really powerful, having her story, knowing her story. Because I think it was in the mid-'90s when she died. For some reason, I think it was around 1995, 1996, something like that, which was pretty close to when you were probably getting in the hospital. Was it 97 you got in the hospital, or?
No, it was in the late 80s, and yeah.
All right. So in the 80s, so that's, it was before she, so when that happened later, then that helped also, I guess, keep you on track with life.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Christine, I can't tell you how privileged we are that you joined us today for this show. And I want to ask you real quickly, can you share with the audience about, your website? You're doing such amazing stuff with your show, Run With It. I've been really feel pleasure, such great pleasure to have been on your show as well. But what's your website, Christine?
It's runwithit.ca.
Runwithit.ca. And if you forget this, folks, you can always go to her page on my website, and that information's there. You're going to say something else?
No, it's just, when I created the show, I created Run With It because that's my life. I'm just taking life in stride and enjoying, having that balance in life, healthy balance.
Yeah, and bringing some great guests on. I listened to people you've had on. It's been really wonderful. And so you're the biggest and the only show that's running fitness and health in BC. And you've really moved, and things are moving in a big direction, aren't they, for you on a more national level?
It is, and thank you for asking. Yes, it's like you have to believe, and you have to. It's like that carrot keeps in front of you. You really have to dream it, visualize, and the field of dreams is it's something that you have to keep striving for, and never give up. Never give up on your dream. Never give up on what you're dealing with and how you're feeling, because there's always an answer. There's always help out there. So, I am recovered, and I feel very blessed.
And look at the carrot. Isn't it ironic that something you've been hiding was actually the source of? It became the source of what you are today as this running community.
Absolutely. Like I said it earlier, I owe running a lot. Running's given me such, I've met so many great people, and it's a cottage industry for me, and I love running, and I just love what I do.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Well, Christine, thank you for being on the show. And for those of you, we have one more segment coming up, the Because You Asked. And so this is the segment where I'm going to be answering your questions. So don't go away. We'll be right back after the break. And thank you again for Christine.
Thank you.
Being inspired by a speaker while learning everyday positive information that you can use to help your life is exactly what Dr. Teresa Nicasio does when she speaks in front of your group. From healthcare professionals to special needs parenting and everything in between, Dr. Teresa Nicasio can customize topics for your group on everything from health to psychology. To book Dr. Teresa Nicasio as a speaker for your group, visit yumfoodforliving.com or call 604-445-6463. That's 604-445-6463.
If you're like the 8 out of 10 women that say finding jeans that fit is a problem, well, your problem is solved. Lee Jeans has done extensive research, and they have jeans that fit. There's even an online Lee Fit Finder so you can find the right fit for you. Imagine jeans that instantly slim you with a custom fit and no gap waistband. And guys, kids, Lee has jeans for you too. Click through to Lee's Jeans on the HealthyLife.net advertiser page and get what fits.
When you have a food allergy or dietary limitation, Dr. Teresa Nicasio knows it's hard to give up the foods you love, so she decided to put on her chef hat and give you affordable, personalized culinary consultations that will light up your taste buds. You'll explore substitute ingredients so you can enjoy your favorite foods again. She'll even help you make food preparation easy and guide you on your path to healthy living. And to get started, all you have to do is call 604-445-6463. That's 604-445-6463. There's a book that makes it so easy to embrace a healthy, gluten-free lifestyle, even kids will like it. Filled with heartwarming stories, food as medicine health tips, easy allergy-free recipes, and creative culinary inventions, the award-winning book Yum by Dr. Teresa Nicasio is your source for all of this and more. So make gluten-free living easy, tasty, and fun. Get Yum, plant-based recipes for a gluten-free diet at Amazon.com or visit yumfoodforliving.com. That's yumfoodforliving.com.
Radio your way. HealthyLife.net.
Well, Welcome back. You're listening to the Dr. Teresa Nicasio Show, where we celebrate life, love, and kindness while also acknowledging the challenges that are an inherent part of living on this planet. So now is the part of the show for your questions to be answered, whether they're about psychology, health, parenting, cooking, pets, relationships, I don't know, gardening, food, any of that. It's all good. You can send those questions in, and thank you for those of you who have been sending your questions. You can send it to me. You can go to the Ask Teresa button on my website. My website is teresanicasio.com, and that's Teresa with an H, an N like Nancy, and two S's. So it's TheresaNicasio.com. And I can't promise that I'll be able to respond to your questions on the air or in my Blush Vancouver magazine questions. I do the Q&As. But if I can, it's awesome, and I'm doing everything I can to in some way address your issues and questions. So, again, in spirit of this being Eating Disorders Awareness Week and month, and also given our amazing guest, I thought that I would choose one of the questions that came to me with regard to disordered eating. And this is a question I'm going to respond to. Dear Teresa, I recently learned that my beloved 17-year-old niece has been cutting herself and was diagnosed with bulimia. I really care about her, but am not sure how I can support her right now. Jennifer in Kelowna. So thank you, Jennifer. Oh, my gosh, this is a really good question. And as you all were hearing when we were talking with Christine, knowing what to say when someone is struggling with an eating disorder or disordered eating, you can call it either, can be tricky because what they hear, see, feel is going to be distorted. So Jennifer, that's the first thing I want to say is know that you being your love for her is critical for you to hold that space and realize that what she hears and sees may not actually reflect the reality of what you feel. And so for you to kind of take the high road and not take anything personally that she may say or do, but also to be really respectful of her world is the first and most important thing you can do. And do not overestimate or underestimate the value of love and being there continuously. So a couple things I'd like to say is, you being not just being a loving aunt is important, but, the fact that you've written this question is another way that you're actually able to help, because when we go from that place of thinking we know what the answer is, so, well, you just need to eat, or you just need to stop binging and purging, or you just need to stop cutting, that actually doesn't help. But when you go to that place of curiosity, that humility and curiosity, and you really open your heart with love and your genuine openness to her and her unique experience and experiences, that's one of the greatest gifts you can offer. So the other thing I'd like to address real quickly, and we'll talk more about things you can do to help, but is the fact that you mentioned that she's also cutting and is bulimic. Some of you may think, and you may have thought, oh my gosh, one of those is bad enough, but why both together? What most people don't realize is that disordered eating and other forms of self-harm very commonly go together. And it's because, as I mentioned during an earlier segment today with Christine, is that disordered eating disorder, is really a symptom. It's not where the problem comes from. It's not the source of the problem. Similarly, cutting is a symptom. It's not the source of the problem. All that said, when either of those things are going on, they become a new problem. They become kind of a second level, a second order problem. But what I'd like to do is I want to say that a second thing you can do is to help your niece is to open your heart to being more compassionate, because the reality is most often when people get involved in self-harm, is some of the things that Christine was talking about, is because they feel out of control. And those feelings of feeling out of control, the single most common correlate of people who struggle with disordered eating as well as cutting is some sort of history of trauma. Now, I say that, and I say trauma, and a lot of people think about trauma in very limited ways. And yes, the single most common form of trauma that seems to be associated with disordered eating and cutting, but is not a necessary condition, is sexual trauma. But I'd like to say that in an even bigger umbrella is usually it's some sort of relational trauma is the most common. There are other reasons for feeling out of control, for feeling helpless, or experiences of horror and fear, which are all the underlying elements which make a person feel out of control and anxious and trying to find what they do have control of. But relational trauma can take many forms, and that's something I'd like to also mention for all of you listening, is that, yes, so sometimes something can happen, or being in a war zone, or witnessing your parents fighting, or domestic violence, or other acts of aggression, especially when loved ones are involved. Those can also be a form of trauma, a relational trauma. And the other one is abandonment, or perceived abandonment is a huge, huge relational trauma that people don't realize can later cause or result in someone's difficulty coping that may result in cutting or disordered eating. And so particularly if there's an attachment figure, and if you're a parent, or if you're someone who's had a parent where they left you, I mean, they just left. Maybe the marriage wasn't good and there's reasons they left. That abandonment can really affect the child. Divorce can affect, doesn't mean this is always going to be the case. Oftentimes you can have a divorce and it's not this sort of trauma, but it can for some people. And also the loss through death of a loved one. So just understanding these things, Jennifer, will hopefully give you an insight to being more curious and loving with your niece, because she's probably really scared now too, and maybe she's feeling grief. And if you can just be there and not focus so much on the symptoms of the disordered eating and her cutting, but if you can focus instead on how she is and in her world and her experiences, that will go a long way. So we could talk about for hours on this topic, but we're going to leave it at that. But I'd like to thank you all for coming to the show today. I hope you've enjoyed the show today. And if you or someone you know, or any businesses would like to advertise their product or service on the show or be a sponsor, let me know. And if anyone wants to donate, you can always go to my website and push the little donate button. We have a great PayPal system to help you to support the cause. And so thank you again for joining me today and my wonderful guest, Christine. Be sure to tune in next week when we'll have plant-based chef James Sant talking about love and slow food in the kitchen. It's going to be a great show. Anyway, until next time, leaving you with some of Christine's words that, to have the courage to dream, and you have to dream what you want to create it and never give up. So until next time, keep dreaming, and I look forward to sharing time with you next week.